Hello everyone, it's Channin here for Pinkfresh Studio. In today's video, we are going to add tons of depth to these gorgeous Christmas presents with ink blending and stencils. We're going to start today's project by stamping our presents. The presents are from the Christmas present stamp set. The 3 gifts are all on one stamp, making it very fast and easy to stamp them, which is awesome. I'm going to ink them up in detail black ink, stamp them onto some white cardstock, and once those presents are dry, we're ready for ink blending. I'm going to be using the Christmas presents coordinating stencil set here. There are 5 stencils in this set. Each one of the stencils are labeled in the upper left corner. I will be using them in order, starting here with stencil 1, just lining it up with my stamped images. I have a grip mat underneath, so it's holding my stencil in place. We are going to kind of bounce around with our colors a little bit. I'm not going to use one color for each stencil layer, so I will really make sure that the labels are on screen so you can follow along. I grabbed a second stencil here just to use as a mask to protect that round present over on the right while I ink blend the large present here. Starting with Citron, just going to ink blend a little gradation over the front of this present. And once I get a little bit of that gradation going with the Citron, I'm going to enhance it a little bit with a darker shade. This is Bay Leaf. And yes, these are the 2 new inks, or I'm going to use a lot of new inks in today's video, but these are some of the new inks that just released, and I love them. These are this palette especially is one of my favorites. So I've just enhanced the corners on the gradation in the corners of that gift present front. And now we're going to move on to the round present. For the round present, it's just kind of the lip of the lid. So I'm going to ink blend that with a really dark teal color. This is Atlantis. And quickly ink blend that. It also creating a little gradation here where it's darker on the edges of that curve for the lid. And once I finish with that, we're done with stencil number 1. We're now going to move on to stencil number 2. Again, I'm going to line it up with the images and use my grip mat to hold it in place. Starting with that bottom present, going to ink blend it with a little bit of Paradise and create a little gradation over here. This is going to be the side of the box as well as the top. And then I'll enhance that gradation with Atlantis again, which is a darker shade, so it just kind of amps up that contrast in the gradation. Now we're going to move on to that top small present. I'm going to first ink blend the whole thing with bubble gum. I am kind of creating a little gradation here too, where it's darker at the bottom and a little bit darker right at the where the top meets the lid meets the box. And then I will enhance this gradation again with a Raspberry Bliss. I'll do a little cleanup of my stencils with a dry cloth, remove stencil number 2, and now we're on to stencil number 3. We're going to start with that large present there on the left. I'm going to ink blend the sides of the present with Bay Leaf. That's a really kind of that darker olive, and that really helps to create that illusion of depth on that present. Now we're moving on to the greenery on these presents. I'm going to start with Spruce tips and just ink blend all those little greenery additions on the gifts. Once I finish with that, I'll grab Lush Forest and just ink blend a tiny bit at the center of the leaves, or at this where the leaf meets the stem. Just a little bit here and there, just getting a little tiny bit of that darker green really helps to kind of add some depth to the greenery as well. Now we're going to move on to stencil number 4. Again, going to line it up with my images. Now this stencil is mostly the ribbon on the upper present as well as the berries. I'm going to start by ink blending everything in Fruit Punch, one of my favorites from the new ink release. Then I'm going to grab Berrylicious and ink blend a little bit on the ribbon. I grabbed the smaller blending brush so I can really get in there and just add that ink, that darker red where I want it. I'm adding it to the sides of the bow and at the bottom of the ribbon that's wrapped around the present as well. And this really does help to create that illusion of that this ribbon is actually wrapped around the present, and I love it. Just a little bit of ink blending with that darker really goes far. I did a little bit of the darker on the berries as well. Now moving on to stencil number 5 here to wrap things up. We're just going to use our pinks this time. I'm going to start with bubble gum and ink blend the ribbon on the large present. And once I finish ink blending that, we're going to grab our Raspberry Bliss and ink blend the top of our small present in the upper right. Ink blend that pretty nice and dark, so you really have a lot of contrast later when so the lid has a lot of contrast from the base. That really does help create that illusion and add more interest too. Once I finish with that lid, I'm going to add a little bit of Raspberry Bliss to the sides of the ribbon that's wrapped around the large gift. Again, kind of enhancing that gradation, getting more contrast, really does help to get that illusion of roundness. And I'm even going with the smaller brush here really to get in there and add a little bit of depth to the bow on this ribbon as well, or on this this ribbon wrapped around the present. Now that I've finished ink blending, I am all done with my gifts. I'll hold up to the camera here so you can see they have tons of depth. They really do look like they're popping off the page. I am going to now stamp them again in black. I love doing this. It just crisps up the line. So I popped it into my Misty, and now we're ready to die cut it out. I have the Christmas Presents die set here. Just like the stamp, the dies for the 3 gifts are all kind of grouped together, so you can die cut them out real quick and easily. And now we're going to move on to our background. I have an A2 top folding craft card base, and I have got Gathered Twigs ink here. We're going to ink blend the corners and the sides of this card front, creating a little gradation. This will really draw your eye in to our focal point, which is the presents, but it'll also kind of make the canvas, which is in this case, our card base, a little bit smaller, so it doesn't feel like our presents are kind of being swallowed up by white space. Once we finish ink blending that, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I've grabbed a sentiment from that Christmas present stamp set. Just going to ink it up in detail black and stamp it on the front of our card base. After we do that, I've created a quick mask with the coordinating sentiment die out of full adhesive Post-it note. I'm just going to place it over that sentiment to protect it while we add the snow. So for the snow, I'm going to use another one of the new inks. This is Calico White. I'm going to kind of press the ink pad to a piece of acetate, spritz some water over the ink, mix the water and the ink together, and then I will kind of load my brush up with that watered down ink and splatter those corners and edges, basically everywhere I ink blended with the Gathered Twigs earlier, to kind of create the look of snow. This is such a fun little technique to do, and it really adds so much. So once I finish splattering the sides, I can remove my mask, and we're ready to put this card together. I'm going to arrange my gifts here. When I get them in the right spot, I'll grab a piece of press and seal, pick up those presents, and then I will add some foam adhesive to the back side. I'll just cut a couple strips and add it to the back. Once I get that foam adhesive in place, I'll then remove the backing with my tweezers, and then I will stick my presents down. Once I get those presents stuck down, my card is all done. I'll hold it to the camera so you can get a good look at all the details on this fun holiday card. I love these beautiful gifts. I can't wait to even try more different color palettes with them, and they just fill this card so nicely, and the sentiments that go with this set are just beautiful as well. Hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If any questions about the products I use, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.